Endurance racing produces the longest races in all of motorsports, where competitors put it on the line, driving flat out for up to 24 hours to try and claim victory in some of the world's most prestigious races. With the races being so long and difficult, and having so many cars on track, one lapse in concentration can have huge consequences. So, join us as we take you through the worst crashes in endurance racing ever. First up is one of the most infamous crashes ever in motorsports. Peter Dumbreck was realizing a dream by taking part in the 1999 Le Mans 24 Hours. He was piloting his Mercedes down the back straight at almost 200 miles per hour, right behind the rival Toyota, setting up a daring overtake. But nobody could have predicted what happened next. The Mercedes suddenly lifted off the ground while going through the kink, and was launched straight into the air. Dumbreck was thrown upwards, flipping out of control, and was thrown straight over the barriers. It landed so far into the forest that it couldn't be seen on the TV cameras. The commentators were left in disbelief at one of the most shocking crashes ever witnessed.
Absolutely unbelievably, because to see an accident of these proportions, you just have to fear the worst the moment it happens. By the time the rescue crews got out there into the trees, and he was some yards from the track,
this era of GT1 car became prone to taking off, and Dumbreck was lucky to survive this inaugural flight. Another one of the most insane crashes happened at the same circuit 12 years later. The Circuit de la Sarthe has produced some of the most incredible racing moments ever, but with that comes some of the most incredible crashes as well. Alan McNish found that out the hard way in 2011 when he was overtaking slower traffic in his Audi R18 TDI LMP1 car. While coming through the Dunlop curves, he made contact with a Ferrari that sent him straight towards the barrier at crazy speed. With zero chance of saving it, his Audi skipped across the gravel and went airborne, right before smashing the tire wall at a horrible angle. It ripped the car into pieces and sent photographers and track workers running for their lives.
And there we go. This is
a massive crash, and this is Alan McNish in the Audi 3. Look at that. Wow. It's absolutely complete wreck.
The car was completely destroyed, but if it had hit the wall any higher up, it likely would have ended in tragedy. This was one of the most insane crashes that the French 24-hour classic ever produced. Let's stay in Le Mans for now, as the following year featured this almighty shunt for two very unlucky drivers. When Anthony Davidson stepped into endurance racing from Formula 1, he never would have imagined being in a crash as scary as this. He was driving his Toyota TS030 LMP1 car down the Mulsanne straight when he was clipped by a slower Ferrari, which made him completely lose control at over 300 kilometers per hour. His Toyota was flung into the air, flipping in the process and sending Anthony flying upside down towards the wall. It then had a nasty landing and was flung straight into the barrier at horrific speed, resulting in an unholy smash. The Ferrari suffered the same fate, with both cars taking horrible impacts that even managed to move the tire barrier out of place. It goes to show that a tiny mistake at these speeds can have huge consequences. And if you're enjoying these epic endurance crashes, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing for more motorsports content just like this. With that being said, let's check out this truly insane moment from one of America's favorite racetracks. Joey Hand was driving his BMW M3 flat out down the Savage Straight at Mid-Ohio in 2006, battling side-by-side for position. Hand suddenly found himself being pushed off the track, and what happened next was shocking. He was forced onto the grass, and unluckily for him, he hit a bump that launched him into the air as if a bomb went off under his car. It landed on its nose, taking a truly horrific impact at this heart-stopping speed. It sent the car spiraling into a spectacular series of barrel rolls and flips, each one more brutal than the last.
Oh no! Very big accident. Very big accident.
Every panel of the car was battered, and it even came across the tarmac again for some more punishment before coming to rest at the other side of the track. This was truly one of the most insane incidents ever caught on camera. Le Petit Le Mans race at Road Atlanta in 1999 had it all. Drama, suspense, and heartbreak. But above all that, it's remembered for one of the most brutal and haunting crashes from this era of GT1 racing. The ex-F1 driver and four-time Le Mans winner Yannick Dalmas was driving his Porsche GT1 right behind a rival when disaster struck. Out of nowhere, air caught under the car and lifted it, sending it airborne and completely out of control. It flipped end over end and flew a crazy distance down the track. When it eventually landed, the rear hit the ground hard and broke the rear of the car off. It smashed it to pieces and the car erupted in flames, eventually hitting the concrete wall hard. The front and back were torn from the car in what was one of the most memorable motorsports crashes ever seen. And if we're talking about scary, dangerous crashes, it doesn't get more terrifying than this one. Memo Gidley was on the unfortunate end of some extremely bad luck in 2014 showing of the classic Daytona 24-hour race. He was driving his Corvette DP, minding his own business, when he was suddenly taken by surprise in the worst way imaginable. A Ferrari GT car had lost power and was going slowly, but Memo only saw it at the last second while cutting through traffic. With nowhere to go, he rear-ended the Ferrari at incredible speed in a devastating wreck. The speed difference in the two cars was insane, and the front of his Corvette was completely destroyed.
Ferrari, he stopped by the side of the road, and then along came Memo Gidley, who was unsighted, and whammo.
He had to be cut from the car and suffered a long list of injuries from this horrific prototype smash. It remains one of the most devastating crashes that the Florida favorite track has ever produced. Now, the similarities between that crash and this next one are eerie, as Mitsunori Takaboshi also had a ridiculous head-on crash because of a slower car. He was driving in the Super GT series at the Fuji 450 kilometers in 2022 when he saw his life flash before his eyes. Takaboshi was flat out on the straight at close to 200 miles per hour, but the fate of his race was about to change in a split second. He was in the slipstream of another driver, who at the very last second moved, leaving Takaboshi with nowhere to go. He darted left to avoid the slow car, but headed straight for the wall at over 300 kilometers per hour. He smashed into the barrier head-on in a crash that registered 82 Gs. The car was torn up so badly that the front and back were effectively ripped off, leaving little but the cockpit left. It was insane that Takaboshi was lucky enough to survive this crash, and it will no doubt go down as one of the scariest and most dangerous in history. Now let's go back stateside and check out a truly devastating crash. In motorsports, there's not much worse than one car slamming into the side of another at full speed. Unfortunately, that's exactly what happened between Fabrizio Barbazza and Jeremy Dale in 1995. While racing at Road Atlanta, Barbazza spun his Ferrari on a high-speed corner and was left rolling back across the track, in the worst possible place, and when Dale took the corner flat out in his Porsche, he was left with nowhere to go but straight into the side of Barbazza. With an almighty impact, Barbazza's Ferrari was sheared in half instantly. The whole front of Dale's Porsche was completely wrecked, and debris was littered everywhere, even injuring a fan. Barbazza and Dale both suffered life-changing injuries as a result of this utterly destructive wreck. The next crash was completely wild, but the fact it happened on the formation lap shows just how bad the conditions were that day at Fuji in 1998. The safety car was being driven erratically in the wet, which doesn't exactly help on the safety side of things. As a result, a Porsche 911, driven by Tomohiko Tsunako, hit another competitor and spun off the track, hitting the barrier hard. Tetsuya Ota then aquaplaned straight off the track and directly into Tsunako's 911, and what happened next was almost unbelievable. The car burst into flames immediately, in a crash that looked more like a Hollywood action movie than a real-life motor race. Ota was totally engulfed in flames inside his Ferrari as it rolled back across the track, and he had to eventually be rescued by another driver as the marshals took so long to help. He suffered severe injuries, but was lucky to survive after this truly terrifying inferno. And after seeing that outrageous crash, I think it's time to wrap up this video, as it doesn't get any crazier than that. With high-speed hits, ridiculous rolls, and spectacular shunts, these endurance racing crashes definitely had it all. Please leave a comment and let us know which crash you thought was the worst, and tell us if we missed any. Please smash the like button and subscribe for more motorsports content. This has been Racers Reverie. See you in the next video.